Welcome to the MLB Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by PlayPicks and thelines.com. I'm your host, Nate Weitzer, flying with Midwest Mo here. Looking at a Wednesday night slate here, plenty of day action, but we are focusing on those night games here across the MLB as we try to give you plenty of opportunities to get your money down before these games start. Josh Lander, our usual host, still out, as I mentioned, on his honeymoon out in Hawaii. God bless him. But we are bringing you plenty of episodes as well as written content on PlayPicks and thelines.com, where Mo is our baseball head writer. And if you do need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to ftpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find those listings in your local area. Such as this Wednesday slate we have here. I'm going to skip over the first few day games, not even read them off, but I am intrigued by the Padres at a 4:11 start time here Eastern. Yu Darvish against Ashby and the Padres at minus 126. I think there is some value there at home, but we're not going to focus on it. Like I said, Athletics plus 140 at Seattle. That's another afternoon game. And then we get to these night games where we have Cubs, slight underdogs with Kyle Hendricks on the mound at Cincinnati. Luis Castillo making his fourth start. Marlins are plus 138 at Tampa. O's plus 168 at Yankees. Phillies plus 120 at Braves. Red Sox plus 150 at White Sox. Guardians plus 160 at the Astros. And then the Rangers are plus 140 at the Angels. And we're taking the Cubs the last 2 days here on this program, but I think we're flipping to the Reds here, and not only taking the Reds at minus 120, but taking a Reds run line, which gets you plus 168. Nice juice there. Kind of hoping to catch one of those Kyle Hendricks blowups that Mo is always seeking here. And it's definitely happened a lot against Cincinnati in his last 6 starts against them. He's given up 5 earned or more in 4 of those. He has a 7.7 ERA. He's not an overwhelming pitcher at all. A guy with very low velocity who depends on ground balls, and his ground ball rate continues to plummet. It's down to 35% this year after the last 2 years. Not in the zone very often, to 40% zone rate. And we saw what happened when a team in a lineup gets a little more familiar with him, right? The Diamondbacks faced him in consecutive starts. Second time out, they got him for 4 homers and 7 earned. And Luis Castillo, I still believe in his talent, even though the velocity isn't quite up to where it was a couple of years ago when he looked great. This is only his 4th start of the season. Like I said, the control seems to be improving each time. He has a nice 63% first strike rate, 16.5% called strike rate. I kind of believe in him as one of those talented young Reds arms, and I just don't believe in Kyle Hendricks, especially on the road in a hitter's park like this.
Yeah, Hendricks, I've talked about him before. He's definitely the guy, maybe out of all the pitchers so far this year, that I just can't figure out at all. So I guess one of the ways you can see that is in his game log. He's just kind of been all over the place. He has 3 games with a game score under 20. A lot of people might not be familiar with that metric, but close to 100 is very good. Close to 0 is atrocious. He has 3 of them under 20. He has, in his game log, you can just see he has 4 starts this year with 4+ earned runs. And then every other start this season, he gave up 2 or less. So it's really been a polar set of results for Hendricks this year. So I think the way you take advantage of that is to play the run line either way. Maybe take the Cubs minus if you like the Cubs, and then take the other team minus 1.5 if you like the other side. If you look at kind of maybe the reasons behind it, you'll see he's allowing his highest launch angle of his career and the most barrels of his career, and it's resulting in 1.81 home runs per 9. And since the offense is actually playing somewhat decent, the other side of the coin would be the wind is usually really impactful in that stadium. It's 10 miles per hour in here. It's not my favorite spot to play a run line generally, but when I'm looking at any game with Hendricks, I guess mainly because of the home team factor. I don't really like playing as many home teams -1.5. But if I am going to take a Hendricks game, I think I'm looking to play the run line. And if Hendricks gets blown up here, then I guess since he's very likely to cover the run line and the price is really high. I'm seeing +155 when I checked on DraftKings, and it looks like you found an even better price because I didn't really get the chance to price shop this one yet. But also an argument for the over here. Luis Castillo, a lot of talent, but so far down almost 2 miles per hour on his fastball velocity. So definitely something to monitor there going forward.
Yeah, and the first 2 games of the series going over by a pretty healthy margin. We've mentioned those Reds bats. It's been surprisingly effective lately. And the struggles Hendricks has had against that lineup or in that park, depending how you want to look at it. Flipping over to Atlanta here, and the Phillies as underdogs with Ranger Suarez on the mound. A lefty who, 2 guys that are kind of enigmas in him and Charlie Morton. Suarez starting to pitch better, but had the misfortune of facing the Dodgers in consecutive games. And his last start kind of screams unlucky with an 88% ground ball rate, yet a 625 BABIP. So some of that's going to normalize. I mean, he's been pitching much better, holding righties down after he started allowing righties 340. He's almost impossible for lefties to handle, which is good against some of the Braves' top guys like Matt Olson, for example. And then Charlie Morton, he's just not the same kind of dominant stuff we've seen. Not that he was, completely cruising through the regular season the last couple of years, but his swinging strike rate down to 9%, walk rate up above that at 10.5%, ground ball rate career low 34%, and getting plenty of line drives. So reasons to be concerned about Morton, who has managed to pitch around trouble a lot. We mentioned his strand rate in one of our previous episodes, and I think that that you get the value with the Phillies at +120 in another toss-up we talk about with these NL East teams. Kind of like the under here, though, because, of Morton's ability to wriggle out of trouble and Suarez's natural ability. Even though these teams have been going over, I think 8.5 runs is a little high for this matchup.
Boy, this is a spot where if I saw this line in the first week of the season, I would have been piling all my money on the under because I came in with like super high opinions of both of these pitchers. And then they basically both sucked for the first month. You can just basically look at their game log and see just each one 5 mediocre to bad starts to start the season. And then they just started turning it around. There's each of them their second start of May. And they've both had a 3-game stretch of pitching pretty well. And it just makes me honestly not know what to do with them right now. I'm especially kind of vexed by Charlie Morton. I think Ranger Suarez is what he's pitched overall this year. I think he's probably around a 4 ERA guy. And maybe last year was kind of the mirage. But for Charlie Morton, I mean, his stats overall this year still kind of stink. And he was tremendous for almost all of the last 5 years. Only the pandemic shortened season did his stuff not look quite as good. And his ERA was honestly quite a bit worse than his estimators. So I'm sure he was still pitching pretty well. His velocity was down that year too. Probably just a function of the way that season went. But he's throwing 95 and he's still not able to miss miss the bats he normally has. So it's kind of at his age 38, you got to be a little concerned there. But I just honestly am not super excited to bet on any Charlie Morton games until basically either way until I start seeing some more evidence. I guess so. Figure out what he is.
Yeah, but I think we can trust him to avoid any of those blow-ups that we talked about with the other game, and that is why we kind of like the under there. So plenty of talent in both of these bullpens to try to find some consistency and stop playing all these slugfests that we've seen. Flip side of the coin here is the Astros hosting the Guardians, and Houston's been going under at like an 80% clip this season. But the total just 8 runs. Cleveland does tend to go over as the underdog, that is. And I don't know if I have the same confidence in Cal Quantrill that you do, or I think you just like the value here. His ability to kind of throw a bunch of junk up there and hope that the Astros ground out a lot. I mean, he does have low contact against righties, but just a 2.3 K per 9 ratio on the road against righties. Still expecting that Astros offense to come to life here. I mean, they're 8th in total bases, 1st in ISO, 5th in slugging, yet they're 16th in runs. I mean, that's going to regress positively at some point. And then Christian Javier going for them is a guy who has such great stuff that I guess he just feels like he can challenge anybody, and that leads to a lot of hard contact. 46% in his last 3 starts. The Nationals of all lineups tagged him for 7 earned. His line drive rate almost as high as his ground ball rate when it comes to facing lefties, and Cleveland can stack a bunch of lefties, can work a bunch of counts, and maybe get him out of the game early and turn this one into more of a middle relief back and forth that I think would help get over 8 runs.
Yeah, I would lean to the over for sure. But I am interested in the Guardians. Plus 155 is the line I found on DraftKings. I think you might be able to find a little better. I haven't line shopped this one yet either. I think you hit on a key point here. That's definitely Christian Javier's lefty-righty splits. He's a pretty big splits guy. 330 WOBA allowed in his career against left-handed hitters, down to 241 on right-handed hitters. And it makes sense when you look at his pitch mix. 31% sliders. Anytime you have a right-handed guy who's a big slider guy, they're gonna struggle with lefties if they don't have a really good changeup. And the Guardians can put 4 lefties in the lineup, and 3 of them I would classify as good hitters. That's Steven Kwan, Jose Ramirez from the left side, and then Josh Naylor as well. So they've been 5th best offense versus right-handed pitchers. I don't think their talent level is top 5, but they've been good, and I think this is a decent matchup for them. I think it's not the worst spot for Quantrill either. I'm not a big fan of Quantrill, so it's funny you say that I have any confidence in him, because I definitely don't. He's a guy I'm like almost always fading, but I just think this is a decent spot with this much plus money. The Astros, they have been pretty bad against his 2 primary pitch types. He mostly throws sinkers and cutters. I think they were like around 20th with negative value produced against both pitch types. So kind of a lot of things lining up telling me the Guardians probably have a little better chance than the market thinks in this one.
Yeah, I mean, they have surprised all season. I think it's a good opportunity to get some good value. Yeah, I see it at plus 166 at FanDuel. So plenty of juice there to be had, but that is all the time we have for you in this one. Again, like and subscribe to the page so you don't miss a beat, as we will continue to bring you these night videos each and every weekday of the MLB season. Also, NBA videos. We'll have that Heat Celtics breakdown for you on Wednesday. And until we see you next, happy betting.